I'm on team let the birth rate plummet to hell. I make that clear quite often because I don't believe that this current environment, the political climate, the climate, I don't believe that where we are right now is conducive to babies and the safety of women, the safety and health of women. So I do go into the natalism subreddit because these people want babies. They want to promote policies that push reproduction. So yeah, I do like to go into their subreddit periodically. Those they mirror many of the things that I say because some of them have the sense enough to know and understand that there are obstacles to overcome to have some babies in this country, in this earth, on this earth. Anyways, so there have been some discussions about why the total fertility rate is dropping. This woman says it's not because of girl boss feminism, actually. She says, at least not solely. I've seen many commenters on here claim that girl bossing is the reason for the falling total fertility rate. Some even go as far as implying that women should not get to pursue secondary education, not be able to divorce, etc. While I do think that the media you consume shapes your beliefs to a certain degree, your own experiences and those of family and friends matter more. My mother, as well as my aunt and grandma from my father's side, have had very problematic marriages, to say the least. My family drilled the importance of education and independence into my head because they didn't want me to live like them. I have witnessed similar dynamics with some of my friends' parents too. As a result, many young women today are more weary of having kids because they feel that choosing the wrong partner will ruin their lives. At least I was. It doesn't help that single mothers are society's punching bag right now. Even so, if you technically can leave, you will likely be poor, stigmatized, and might never find love again. That whole paragraph could literally be unpacked and spoken on as to the reason why the birth rate needs to continue to plummet to hell. And a lot of people don't claim that they are feminists, but they become staunchly independent and want financial freedom and all of that because of what they have seen or witnessed with other people's relationships or what they have experienced in their own relationships. They have seen what happens when a woman has been financially dependent on a man and then she still had to survive with kids. Like this person says, you will likely be poor if you do leave. That's that's one of the reasons why women become feminists, because they don't want to experience that again, especially if they were the child of the poor mom who had to leave a relationship. All right, continuing with her post. She said, when I told them that I plan to get married to my fiance this year after being together for 5 years, my grandma almost had a breakdown, and my mom tried to discourage me from it, even though they really like him. They fear that I will not be able to finish my bachelor's. I have one more year to go. These women are not feminists, and they weren't indoctrinated by the media either. It doesn't matter to them that nothing would really change since we already live together. Rationally, I am even getting a better deal out of marriage than he is because he currently earns more than me, and I would have legal claim to his earnings, though we already combined finances a while ago. The family and relationship dynamics of older generations played a huge part in the ambivalence of women towards motherhood. There is a reason why women are pushed to obtain a degree. I hate how this is demonized on here as girl boss feminism. I know that there are a multitude of factors for falling birth rates, but I disagree with the notion that this is all because of feminism. Bad fathers and husbands of the past contributed to this development. She put it in bold that these women are not feminists because feminism has such a negative connotation. Feminists don't hate men. Feminists don't want to rule men like men rule women. Feminists just literally want equality. They want safety for women. They want women to be able to serve. They want women and girls and boys, women and children to be able to survive and thrive regardless of marital status. And even if they don't call themselves feminists, they're pushing them to get it. They're pushing their daughters to get an education. They're pushing women to be financially independent. They're doing this for a reason. And even if they don't call themselves feminists, they are still doing the feminism. I had a series of videos that I was doing last year where I was talking about feminists are born out of oppression. They're born out of seeing the things that they see in their family dynamics. A lot of the time, what they witness and experience within their families create feminists, not necessarily indoctrination in college or books or t-shirts that says I'm a feminist or whatnot. It's because they have seen oppression and they don't want to experience that again. They've seen boys treated differently and they don't want to experience that again. They've seen girls have to be servants because we are born with a uterus and they don't want to experience that again. That is how oppression, lack of safety, that's how feminists are born, even when people don't call themselves a feminist, because we want safety and equal opportunities and not to be treated like that's how feminists are born. Anyways, I have talked a lot and editorialized a lot because I don't like it how people try to say, they're not feminists. It's like, okay, I'm a feminist, but I still believe just like this because it's not necessarily about, like I said, hating men and wanting to rule men. I'm going to get into some of these comments though, because there's a lot of goodies in this comment. Some of the comments could even be their own video. All right, let's check out some of these comments. JT Blake in New York City says, OP, I'm significantly older than you, Gen X, and I understand where your parents are coming from. Both of my grandmothers did everything right in accordance with their conservative values. They waited until marriage. They worked until they became pregnant with their first child, then sacrificed their careers in order to become homemakers and raise the children, 4 and 6 respectively. They bore their husbands, who worked outside of the home to provide the sole income on which they lived. Their reward? To be abandoned by their husbands for younger women, left to raise their husbands' children alone for more than a decade of being out of the workforce and zero job prospects capable of supporting a family. They and their children lived in dire poverty as a result. Those of us women who saw our mothers' and grandmothers' lives play out as described above did not wish to suffer their same fate. Ergo, we planned our lives and reproductive choices in order to ensure that we would not have to. This didn't mean eschewing marriage per se, but did mean eschewing financial dependence upon anyone else, including a spouse. Accordingly, we delayed having a child or children until we reached a point in our careers in which we could be certain that we could afford to raise them without assistance in the event our spouses abdicated their parental responsibilities. This woman just dropped it all. This is precisely the point that I have been making in many things. When I talk about the trad wife to poverty pipeline, this right here, to be abandoned by their husbands for younger women left to raise their husbands' children alone, and then they are living in dire poverty as a result. When I talk about having a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, L, M, N, O, P, this is the reason why, because we've seen this play out. And then when I talk about it, people like clutch at their pearls like, oh my God, but do you live in reality world? Do you know that, it kind of sucks when you have a child over here looking hungry and you don't have any money? Leaving the workforce for a long time sucks. Having to make game plans to feed these people where the peen havers can just take themselves out of the equation and leave. They can drop the sperm and leave. We've seen it time and time again. Why do people have to touch the stove to know that it's hot? Result Downtown says, Gen Xer here. When I was in college in the late 80s and early 90s, I had many classmates who were older women in their 40s and 50s. Many of these women were stay-at-home moms who were either empty nesters or recently divorced or both. This is the generation of women who are praised for putting marriage and family first. All those women told us 20-something classmates, male and female, to get our house in order financially before getting married and having kids. They emphasized to the women that we needed financial independence because one never knows what will happen. This isn't just about husbands leaving, but also if he dies or becomes severely disabled. This is also about having an escape pod in the event that the marriage becomes toxic. The comments can be their own post. I'm going to make a part 2 where I just talk about some of the comments. I'm in the comment section of a post on the Natalism subreddit. These are the people that do want to have babies, but these women have actually seen what happens when a woman does things traditional way or doing everything the right way and the man still leaves. And for me, this is how feminism is actually born, because these women have seen what it means to struggle and not have their own money. Anyways, I was doing a post, and this is the tail end of her comment, saying, I find it funny that women are now being criticized for taking control of their lives when it was the stay-at-home moms and wives generation that taught, warned, begged, and pleaded for us to do this. I would rather take advice from people who lived through this golden era of family values rather than those who fantasize about it. And the advice that they are giving is to go to school and be financially independent before having babies. Wasp Honey says, I agree. I'm a stay-at-home mom and rely on my husband. I am taking a risk, but I put a lot of faith into my husband to take care of us. I am fortunate that he is a wonderful man. If he were abusive or aggressive, I could imagine the terror that would bestow. Women want safety one way or another. Working a well-paying career is one way to ensure safety. Women working is not the problem. Unsafe and abusive homes are the problem. Inky Madness says, my dad had a massive stroke that left him permanently and severely disabled before I was born. My uncle died from cancer when his daughter was 14. I had a next door neighbor who was widowed with a preteen daughter when her husband had a heart attack. Another relative of mine died in an accident and left a widow and 2 kids under 10. It's easy to forget that it isn't even putting faith into a man to be good. It's that life can happen, and surviving to see your kids become adults isn't a certainty. A random car accident could leave you and your kids on the street. That feels like it should be a reason to have some sort of skill set or a degree or job and work part-time or PRN instead of completely staying at home. I'm sorry, being a stay-at-home mom. I've seen it happen to too many people growing up with that firsthand to feel comfortable not having a way to earn a decent income. The worst, should the worst happen. You have to these days. It is not a guarantee. It is such a risk. And we've seen the examples of what happens. But so many women don't want to hear us because they think that us feminists are just crazy man-hating heathens or whatever. It's like, no, we want you to be able to survive and thrive regardless of the situation. Kindly Development says, I agree with you. It's a huge risk to trust someone enough to give up your career to be an at-home parent if you live in the United States. I'm also a stay-at-home mom, and to manage the risk, I have a large sum of life insurance on my husband, and I completely manage our finances. He's a wonderful person, and if I end up alone, it would almost certainly be because he died, not because of divorce. But I'm also prepared for a divorce just in case I've misjudged him. I have a career plan in mind that I will take steps towards if our marriage ever gets rocky enough that I feel it could end. As far as finances go, the only reason I was willing to quit my career to be home with our son is because we're able to save enough that if we split or he died, I'd still be on track for a reasonable retirement. That means we live in a smaller home and live far more frugally than we could. I think it's so important to be proactive if you're a stay-at-home mom. I watched a close friend who was also an at-home parent go through a very painful divorce and have to start over with very little money and no career in her early 40s, and I won't let that happen to me. We have seen this. I'm 44 years old, and I have definitely seen relationships go downhill. Women, I really do wish that the women in their 20s that are bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, naive, wearing the rose-colored glasses would listen to the older women, because a lot of the times by the time women are 40 and 50 years old, they've already seen the things. So you have got to listen to us. It's not that anyone is jaded. It's just that we have seen what life can do to a relationship and what happens on the back end. JCP Lee says they understand that risking not finishing your education may leave you permanently dependent on a man. It is absolutely your choice what to do with your life. But this is not about feminism, it's common sense, considering that the abuse that many women have been forced to accept due to dependency on a male partner. With your potential independence, you are not only less likely to be taken advantage of, you also have more options to leave if your relationship doesn't work. And then the OP, the original person that said it's not because of girl boss feminism, she says, I understand the concern, but I don't see why I wouldn't be able to finish my education. I already live with him and I manage just fine. I mentioned feminism because some conservatives on here claim that feminism brainwash women into prioritizing careers over family, when the reality looks quite different and doesn't really have anything to do with it, as you said. And then JCP Lee says, you should be able to finish. However, your family likely saw cases where the woman married and ended up interrupting their education. They care about your future. Internal Student says it's a very common occurrence for women's education/careers to be put on the back burner once married, whether through circumstance, guilt, pressure, or abuse. Often because many men want to start having children and are fine disregarding that a woman is more than a convenient vessel for his sperm, or what I like to call an incubator/wife appliance. Marriage shouldn't change your relationship dynamics drastically. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen all the time. Some people get a ring on their finger and feel confident enough in you being trapped to take their mask off. I am so happy that they are speaking about these things in the Natalism subreddit, because way too often these people, these people just want to push having babies. The natalists tend to like, you could survive on love and you don't need that much money to raise babies and all of that. And it's like, can you come into reality world for just a little bit? It does cost money. Women are put in vulnerable situations when they have kids. And some of the things that they tell women is just foolish. It's just simply foolish. So I'm going to wrap it up here. The trad wife to poverty pipeline, the trad wife to single mother pipeline is a real thing. Women have seen it. And I want women to be able to survive and thrive regardless of marital status. If you choose to have children, remember that you need to be able to handle these kids on your own, regardless of if you have a husband here or not, because men up and leaving is a thing. And I don't know how they could just create these kids and bounce, but we've seen it time and time again. It's not about man hating. It's not about just thinking the worst or whatever. We've seen it happen time and time again, and women get caught holding the bag. So don't have more kids than you can actually handle, because they could croak, they could become severely disabled, life could happen. He could leave for a younger person. There is a stereotype of that for a reason, because it has happened. Anyways, that pipeline, the poverty pipeline, is a real thing. Taking care of all these kids by yourself could happen. It's a real thing. So have your plan B, C, D, E, F, G, L, M, N, O, P, all of the plans in place before you become a stay-at-home mom, a trad wife, before you decide to have some kids. Have some game plans just in case. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.